Hello, Heather. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to learn more about what the New York State Concrete Masonry Association has going on and what you've been up to in your new role there as executive director. So if you'd like to just start by introducing yourself and kind of telling us a little bit about what you have going on.
Yeah, so as Bailey said, I'm Heather. I'm the executive director for the New York State Concrete Masonry Association. I have so much going on. It's actually hard to keep all my ducks in a row sometimes, but we do lots of conferences. So I do a spring conference, a fall conference. We do a golf outing and a board of directors retreat that we do on our own where we talk about masonry. And then on top of that, I'm also very involved with a bunch of other organizations that center around masonry and producers in the masonry world. So
awesome.
Yeah.
What drew you initially to join the materials manufacturing side of the construction industry?
So that's a very funny story, kind of in a way. So my whole family, my dad grew up in the masonry world. My grandfather ran the block machine for a local block producer in our area.
Wow.
I did everything in my power to not be in masonry, actually. I went to school, I got my degree as a paramedic, and I helped teach the paramedic program.
Wow.
And I got a text message saying, I need a boss girl to come run our front counter and become a product specialist. Are you up for it? And I said, you know what, let's try it out. Yes. So in 2018, I switched careers from being a paramedic to being in the block world. And here we are today. So It was all just kind of, let's try it and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What is something that you would like the general public or our audience of architects, engineers, anyone who's not familiar with the New York State Concrete Masonry Association, can you share a little bit more about what the mission of the organization is, who your members are, that type of thing?
Yes, so the New York State Concrete Masonry Association is full of anybody who wants to pretty much promote masonry. So we're mainly consisting of block producers and then associate members such as vendors and things like that, all the way to professionals such as we have colleges involved. We have professional people such as like lawyers and bigger people in the industry that are like advisory type people for the masonry industry. So we are full of anyone who really wants to promote masonry, and we're open to anyone who wants to join in that conversation. So that would be our members. And then the other question was, what do we do? Mm-hmm. We promote masonry. So there's so much that people don't know about masonry and what masonry can do. So we are here to really just educate not even just the general population, but also your architects, engineers, educators, contractors. We're here to educate them on the properties of masonry and the strength, the stability, the sustainability, and all those types of things. So what we do is we're basically educating people about masonry.
That's fantastic. So you and I have been somewhat working pretty closely together on a bunch of different initiatives, but we really do both serve that same purpose of we're just trying to get the information out there and inspire more masonry to be used. So I think that's fantastic. And I love that you mentioned sustainability. As the person who's kind of you're in cahoots with all of the producers here, can you walk me through how masonry as an industry and the materials that are used are actually much more sustainable than the general public or even designers, architects, engineers might think that they are?
Yeah, so this is actually one that I'm kind of like passionate about because a lot of people are not aware about concrete products in general. They sequester carbon. So for layman's terms, basically what it does is it sucks in carbon and holds on to that. And we've all heard carbon's bad, we don't want carbon. How can we reduce carbon emissions? And believe it or not, concrete block on its own without any extra steps into making the block. When it cures and over its lifetime will sequester at least 50% of the carbon used to make that block. Most likely more. There's carbon curing now, so they can actually take carbon from office buildings. Basically, a big container will suck in all the carbon released from an office building and gets into a container. That container can get into the curing process for masonry and blast that carbon basically as it cures. So we're taking carbon out of the environment and putting it into our block.
Wow.
Not only can that be done, but when, say something happens to a building and they're gonna take that building down and they're gonna take all your concrete block and crush it, it still holds its carbon. So whatever it took on, it still holds that carbon and can be reused.
That's incredible.
So a lot of people don't realize that it's actually very sustainable, unlike other building materials. They're not. And with like trees, people don't realize when you cut down a tree, that tree roots hold on to a ton of carbon. You cut down that tree, it gets released back into the environment. So,
and the tree is dead.
And the tree is dead.
So it's not cleaning the air, purifying and creating more oxygen. I mean, so this is really, really interesting. I did not hear about that. I somewhat knew that, carbon can be held once the concrete or cement is in its solid form, that it's not emitting that. When we talk also about sustainability, I think another key piece of that is how the materials, so the aggregate, which I'm sure you could speak to this, which makes up a lot of the materials, all of that can be mined locally.
Yeah.
And of course, there are all kinds of things, improvements being made in the mining process for electrification of the mining vehicles, all of that. But on the production side of it, can you speak to how the local aggregates and, how we're really keeping things within the economy of New York State?
Yeah, so that's another really, interesting topic to talk about for masonry is most of it's local. No matter what state you're in or where you are in the US, a lot of it does come local. Going back to mining, that is so heavily regulated now. So a lot of people still think of mining as a dirty thing. And it's so regulated that it's not nearly as much. And like you were saying, there's a lot of more electrical things going there, a lot more of other ways of mining, and that's why it is able to stay local. So that's also part of the reason why you don't want to buy materials from New York versus Connecticut, because it may have different aggregates and mining materials. So it's all local. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know how else to put it, but yeah, most of your stuff comes local. So you don't get hit with a lot of the economical price changes and volatility of the economy that's going on right now nationally or worldwide. But it is very local. I couldn't even tell you how many spots in New York that supply materials to New York. And there's actually a lot of New Yorkers that supply outside of New York. So our masonry will expand into other states. So it actually does help us in that aspect of the economy for New York as well.
Absolutely. And of course, we can talk about historical examples or very well-known examples across the world of how locally sourced aggregates, clay for bricks, those materials were used. One example that I can think of offhand is the City of London. So after there was, I think, the Great Fire of London in 1666, or way back when, the entire city burnt down, and they rebuilt all of the structures with their red clay that they had in the area, and they made bricks out of it. And today, that is what makes the city line of London so, what is the word I'm looking for? So epic and so specific to the City of London, is because those materials were found there. So that red color that kind of peeks through all the fog, and you have all those amazing photographs of the city skyline there, that's all due to masonry. We can even go back further in history with the pyramids. Those are all masonry structures. And so can you kind of walk me through maybe if there is a difference, but how have materials from ancient times or, a couple hundred years back, how has that changed to today? And have we improved, the tensile strength of those materials, things like that?
Yeah, masonry is a very prominent part of our society of civilization as a whole, if you do think about it. And back then, it was probably much more simple. Now we have a lot more things that go into our materials. The biggest thing I can think of right now is a cinder block versus a concrete block.
Okay.
Because cinder blocks are still mentioned all the time, and we don't use cinder block anymore. I mean, in some applications, sure, but 99% of the time you're getting a CMU, which is a concrete masonry unit. Cinder blocks was a product of like coal burning, and after you burn coal, it would create cinders, which would make your block. Those were less durable, they didn't last as long, and they were prone to cracking or some sort of damage, crumbling over time. So we switched to concrete masonry units where their durability, their strength is beyond compare. So what the changes would be, little tweaks maybe in the composition, a little bit more water, a little less sand, a little more gravel, whatever it may be. But really, for the most part, it's pretty similar. You take your material you're trying to stick together and you mud it together, you know?
Yep.
So those materials used way back when that still stand to the test of time today are basically still the materials we're using, essentially. Instead of it being a big piece of like limestone, using a concrete block, but how it all sticks together is kind of similar, so.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. And so kind of to that effect, so bringing it back to the modern building, trade industry now at this point, what is something that you feel that architects, engineers, or any other, building designers, what is something that they don't know about masonry and that you think that they really should?
I would go back to the carbon sequestration and how much more environmentally friendly our materials are, and really changing the stigma of that was what I would definitely focus on for architects, engineers, contractors, and also the beauty of it, because it can be used in so many different ways. You can take, it's no longer just gray, like you have so many options. There's blue blocks and purple block, and you can cover them with different things. There's double walls. You can now insulate them. You can put all of your plumbing through your masonry walls if you wanted and hide it all. So there's just so much out there. So I guess what I would really want them to do is look into see how you can use masonry in a new aged way, because it looks sleek, it looks nice, and that building's gonna be there. So that would be my statement, is put something on the map that's going to stand the test of time, so that way you're remembered as well. Because that building you helped build, you're part of that. And if you're building with materials that are going to not last, that legacy is not there as well. So that would be the sustainability, the durability, and the test of time.
I love that. Yeah. And you definitely, you spend a lot of time with your manufacturers, and so also working in the manufacturing space, you've seen firsthand the process that it takes to create these materials. Can you kind of walk me through a little bit what that looks like, or maybe even just laying out what the actual ingredients, I guess, are to a block? Because I feel like maybe a lot of people aren't aware of how these materials are made.
So the ingredients, they're all basically the same, but they are different depending on the manufacturer. So your ingredients are just basically water, cement, and like an aggregate or gravel.
And what is the difference? Because I'm familiar with, red clay is used for creating bricks, and that's used, they use like an extrusion or an extruder, I guess you would say, to create the bricks. And that's kind of the manufacturing process. Can you walk me through how the CMU process is a little bit different, or the more decorative CMUs, that type of thing? So
I'll go through the basic 8-inch like gray block, because there's the ACMUs, which are your architecturals with the pretty colors. There's breeze block that have the fancy holes through it. So there's all different, it depends on what you're making, but essentially you take your materials, and they're basically made in a batch. So I guess we can compare it to making a cake, right? So you took all your materials into a thing and you mix it together so it becomes the consistency for what you're looking for. Depending on what that cake is gonna do you want it to puff up and be super fluffy or more dense? So that's how you're gonna change your mixtures that you start with. After that, it gets poured basically into a mold and like shaken a little bit, so then that way it gets compacted really well into a machine. From there, there, it will go onto a plate preformed. Well, a lot of people don't realize it doesn't sit in this mold the whole time as it's curing. When it comes out of the mold, it's still wet. It's still something that you could crumble, but it holds itself together. You take that and you put it into a curing process, which is also very different depending on the block plant. A lot do steam. There's other ways of doing that. Some can even dry cure depending on the material. It would cure, and then within 24, 48, or 72 hours, it comes out and you're good to go. And it will get a little stronger over time too, the material.
So yourself being a young woman in the industry, what advice would you give to other young women who are looking to join the either manufacturing or construction industry?
Yeah, my advice for young women coming into trades in general, you know, construction, manufacturing. One, believe you can do it. Do not let anybody tell you you don't belong there, that you can't do it, and that, you know, oh, you know, it's not a spot for women. You know, do not. From being a paramedic, which is very male-dominated field, to being here, very male-dominated field, never have I ever let anyone tell me that I can't do something, and then I turn around and say, I'll do it 2 times better. So never let anyone tell you you can't do it. You can. There's not very many limitations nowadays. There's a ton when it comes to strength. Don't forget, a lot of companies use equipment, so you don't even have to go there and be the for lack of a better term, brute force that's out on a construction. You can be a machine operator, you can be the brains, you could be the project manager, you could be the architect, you can be the engineer. And then in the manufacturing world, you could be sales, you could be in-house, front of the house. And if you want to go on there, you could be a mason, you could be anything you want to be. You just need to put your mind to it and not let other people talk you out of it. That would be my biggest advice. And when someone tells you no, prove them you can do it 2 times better. That would be my advice for young women coming in.
I love that. And I think it's really important also, you know, the fact that you are here, just your presence in the industry is a testament to the fact that times are changing. Women do really well in these roles, and we all care about, you know, our society, about our buildings. And I think that it's just incredible too, when we talk about joining unions and how the unions make it a point to pay everyone equally. You know, they all get an equal pension, equal benefits, all of those types of things. And, you know, in a workforce where women still statistically are paid less for the same jobs, this is the type of industry to join where that you can be assured that that's not going to happen because you are paid for, you know, the hours that you've worked, your skill level, and then you continue to move up. So I think that that's really fantastic. What do you think is the biggest myth about our industry? So masonry, concrete masonry as a whole, that the general public or even the designers, architects, engineers might believe that isn't necessarily true.
Yeah. That it's still, I keep going back to the sustainability and durability of the materials, and the expense. I think a lot of people look at it as something that may cost a little bit more, but what people don't realize is there are block out there where you don't have to bring in extra trades. So you can have a mason come in and not have someone come in and do your drywall. You don't need that. You can do double-sided block where the outside and the interior wall are fine. So you can save so much money. You have your R values, which is your basically how well the building's gonna hold on to heating and cooling. Like we have insulated block that will perform very well with that. So I guess the myth I have is, or a lot of people think it's like a cold gray thing, and that's just not the case anymore. It's not a sterile gray plain wall that you get to look at. It could be just as pretty as the brick behind us. It could be anything you can put your mind to. So I guess for the myth, once again, is sustainability, durability, and that it's not just gray anymore. You can do so much with it, and it I don't know, it's the premier building material in my mind, so.
And I would agree, obviously, you know, I think we're a little biased, but I do think, you know, the truth is the truth, and
Yeah.
There's a reason why this material, or I guess set of materials and tools along with them, why they have been used for millennia now at this point.
Literally.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just incredible to think of the fact that the way that people built things thousands of years ago, that we can still go and visit today. You know, we just have continued to improve and just make things better. So yeah, it's just awesome. What advice would you give to someone who is looking to develop a new commercial space and they're going back and forth between materials that they should choose?
Yeah. Look at your materials based on a resale value, one. How long are you going to keep that building around? Because if you do not plan to be there for a while, then I would choose a material that's not going to be there for a while. But if you plan on staying there, passing that down, so commercial space sometimes are generational, and you don't want to have your kids have to do a ton of stuff with a building, you know, maybe consider that when you're choosing your materials. Consider the long term, such as heating and cooling, what's going to hold the heat in versus not, especially in New York. It's kind of important. And also, you know, we are getting hit with more weather and more types of things. So what's going to hold up to flooding? What's going to hold up to hurricanes, depending on where you are? And because New York has been hit with them. We've seen more tornado warnings. So what's going to hold up to the wind? That is what I would say for your commercial spaces is you may pay 3 cents more a square foot now, but you're saving that in 1 year based on heating and cooling. You know, I would consider long-term versus short-term. I've noticed a lot of commercial buildings and projects are very short-term minded based on costs and how can we get it up the quickest versus long-term, how am I gonna save money on heating and cooling? How am I gonna save money on repairs? How am I gonna save money on the maintenance of a building? I think those things need to be brought up front more than they are now. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you can speak to the actual chemistry of this, but I think that there are also some misconceptions about cleaning masonry buildings. And so can you talk a little bit about effervescence and how to prevent that, or how can building owners kind of go about making sure that their building stays looking beautiful for as long as possible?
So I can kind of get into a little bit of this. Years ago, it was a muriatic acid, which is not something that's really used that commonly. Honestly, it's very easy to keep it clean. Effervescence may happen. It is something that's very common. It's based on the aggregate materials in the area. And it also depends if you're gonna put flower pots and stuff like that, because I've noticed like flower pots, you're feeding the soil, therefore those materials with water will get on your block, which can cause a little effervescence as well. It's pretty easy. There's effervescence remover, you spray it on and it pretty much, you just scrub it, it comes off. Their pressure washing companies do it all the time. But as for the chemistry, it depends on the cleaning that you're doing and who's doing it. So I don't want to get too far into that, but cleaning masonry buildings is pretty easy. Effervescence now has a spray that you kind of just set it on because it's almost like the way I describe it to customers and things was it's basically when you're in a cave, the stalagmites, that hard calcium deposit that you kind of get. It's very similar to that because it is a natural material that it's naturally causing. So I would just, you know, go to your local person. If you're a commercial building, you're gonna have somebody probably clean it for you anyway, but it's as simple as spraying something on, scrubbing it a little bit and washing it off pretty much.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that these are all the things that it's important to just educate people on these facts, because I do feel like, you know, if someone is used to driving around and maybe they see those types of like deposits and stuff on the outside of masonry buildings, it can be cleaned. It's just maybe that specific building owner hasn't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah. And it's all natural. That's the thing I want people to realize. It's a natural thing that happens because it's made with natural materials.
Yes, absolutely. Is there a specific building, project, or structure that you were somehow involved with? So whether that was in your past role or in your current role, where you have, you know, kind of facilitated the sale of these materials, just is there anything that you're particularly proud of?
This one's a little tricky because I now work for all the block producers throughout New York State, and I worked for one prior. So the one, I would be proud of anything my producers put out, but as of for right now, one of the bigger, I was really proud of a local town was looking to revamp their lake facilities, their public parks and things like that. And I was able to walk them through. It ended up being retaining walls, pillars, lights, things like that. But I was able to walk them through upgrading facilities for their general public. And it was a it ended up being about 2.5 years in the whole, once all said and done. It was one that started off as like just $10,000 and ended up being like $100,000 once all said and done. But it came out beautiful. I have friends and family who use that park. So the reason why I'm kind of proud of it is I had a first hand in something that my friends and family use on, at least on a summer basis. So it's kind of cool to have that full circle of being a part of a project, it going up, you helping them make adjustments on materials and what would be best for where and when, and then now people get to use it every day. So that's actually really cool. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Heather, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
I think that this was extremely informative. I hope that our viewers get as much value out of this as I did. If you would like to give a plug for the New York State Concrete Masonry Association for anyone to find you online.
Yes, please check out our socials. Right now I am on LinkedIn and Facebook, and then we have our own website. So if you search New York State Concrete Masonry Association or NYSCMA or NYSCMA.org, you can find us there. We post informational things, the events that we have going on, and that's where you can find myself and our association. So
awesome. And for more about Upstate Masonry Institute, of course, follow us on our socials. You can find our website at masonrynetwork.org. And of course, hit that bell, subscribe, like, and we'll be back with another episode soon. Thank you.